Okay, Patrick, do you want to talk about the role of the disability trustee?
Thank you, Lee. And good morning, everyone. I too thank you for spending a beautiful day inside with us talking about these uplifting topics. The next topic is disability or incapacity. Your trust is designed not only to help avoid a probate at death, but also provide a tool to manage your financial affairs if you become incapacitated. And it's also designed to keep you out of the court system, so a guardian does not have to be appointed for you. That's done by a private determination of your incapacity as written in your trust. It's typically in Article 4. It may say that 2 doctors have to sign off that you can't manage your affairs. It could say your spouse and a doctor sign off that you can't manage your affairs. Or you may even have a disability panel where you've selected certain people who can determine whether you have met the criteria for incapacity. If you're trying to take over as trustee for someone, there is a certification process to show that you are now trustee, and that's also written out in Article 4 of your trust. The powers of a disability trustee are all the same powers of the original trustee. When you create a living trust, you are acting as trustee of your own trust. So you put your stuff in, you're still in charge of it. When you become incapacitated and the disability trustee takes over, they need to be able to manage your affairs too. So they have all the same powers you would have had. The powers list, there's an article in your trust called Trust Powers, and then Article 4 in particular is administration of your trust during incapacity. I encourage you to read through those provisions, make sure you understand what they mean. If you are a current co-trustee, and often spouses are, each spouse sets up their own living trust and you're currently co-trustees with each other. If you're already acting as a trustee, you can kind of bypass the certification process because you already have authority. If you're not, you want to get those doctor's letters, and then you'll sign a affidavit of successor trustee where you hereby swear you have now authority as trustee. And that's the document you take with you to the bank or other financial institutions to get check writing authority and authority over the assets. If you're serving as disability trustee, you're likely also going to be serving as the attorney in fact under the durable power of attorney. So you want to read through that and implement that document to start using it. A power of attorney ought to be recorded before you start using it. If it's recorded, banks are more likely to rely on it. You may also be named as the healthcare power of attorney, so you want to pull that out and make sure you understand your role as making medical decisions for the disabled person. As a trustee, you're now in charge of someone else's stuff. And we'll talk about liabilities a little later, but you've got to take care of their stuff. And someone may question you later how you went about taking care of their stuff. And you want to create some proof of what you did. So you want to figure out what the assets are, create a set of books, and so you can show how you've spent money and how you've taken care of them. If you're not living with the disabled trustee, the disabled trust maker, you want to actually secure and inventory personal property. It's on your watch, you're in charge of it, and if it walks away or is stolen, you could be held accountable. You also want to make sure that insurance on assets is up to date and proper. If there's a $300,000 house and it only has $200,000 of insurance on it, and the house burns down, you could be held accountable for underinsuring the house. You also want to double check funding. Funding is putting stuff in the trust to avoid the probate process. The trust maker is now disabled. It may be now your opportunity to use that power of attorney to put stuff into the trust to avoid probate. To the extent you're trying to prove that you have taken care of stuff, you'll also want to consider having things inventoried and appraised. It's hard to know whether or not you have enough insurance on the house if you don't go and have the house appraised. Any questions on acting as a disability trustee?
I have a question. You
Yes.
said your power of attorney, et cetera, has to be recorded?
Yes.
Is that with the local?
That's with the Register of Deeds in the county where the person resides. Yes.
When I had my mother's power of attorney, we had my name put on her bank account so that I could write checks before her death. Would that be a wise thing for me to do with my kids right now?
The question is, even if you're holding power of attorney, does it make sense to put someone else's name on your checking account so that they can also sign checks? It depends on how you do it and what your overall goals are and what the overall family situation is. If you have a bunch of siblings and you put your name on your mother's account as a joint owner with right of survivorship, then that kind of disinherits your siblings, and it's up to you to make gifts, and that can create financial family strife. The better route would be to have the account named in a living trust, and if she doesn't have a living trust, then operate under the power of attorney. You can even, on a bank account in particular, put someone else's name on the account as a mere signer without also having joint ownership. The other problem with joint ownership is if your name's on your mother's account and you get sued, her stuff can be taken by your creditors. Typically not a good situation if that happens. Yes?
I just read something, and I think it was the AARP, where they did exactly that, and the child died first, and then they taxed the parents for a third of it or whatever.
If the child dies first, the assets go to the parent.
And it was their money they were
yes.
getting. They were getting probated on or whatever.
One of the problems with joint ownership is you kind of lose control over how things are going to pass. And when you have things in a living trust and you're operating on a well-planned set of documents, you maintain control over how things pass. Any other questions? Excellent.